Hi, this is Professor Kirkham, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the research that you're going to be doing for your last paper. I want to talk to you about places that you might look for sources. And I want to start by just saying, please don't do the thing that you may more typically do, which is just Google it. I think that it's very typical for most of us when we're looking for information to just go straight to Google, type in what we're looking for, and pick up whatever comes on the first or second page. But when you're doing academic research, there are better places to look. And I'm going to talk you through two of those places today. Okay, so first let's just talk about why not just use straight old regular Google. First of all, no one edits the internet, and I'm sure you realize this already, but anyone can put anything on the internet. And sometimes people are experts in one field and put up information on a different field. So for example, if I had Professor Kirkham's page on asthma treatment, you'd think, oh, that's a professor. Maybe she knows what she's talking about. But I don't know anything about asthma treatment. I'm not a doctor. I'm an English professor. If I had a page maybe on comma splices, you could trust me, but not information on asthma. So first, remember, nobody is overlooking, overchecking, checking over to make sure that information on Google and information on the internet is reliable. You can't just assume that because it's there, it's real. So one of the things you're going to be looking for when you're looking for sources that you can use in a research paper is published, reliable, and authoritative sources. And those sources are more readily available through the library sources and the library databases and Google Scholar. And part of the reason for that is that often if an article's been published in a journal or something's been published in a book, there is a financial issue involved, which is that the journal has to collect subscription fees, and a book you have to pay for. So the library, for example, will pay those fees, which means that we have access to material that might not just be freely available through Google and just freely available on the internet. Google Scholar is a little bit similar, and I'll talk about that one too, because it links to scholarly articles that are available just regularly on the internet, but also to the databases that we use here at the college. And the other reason is that in-depth sources are important for your research. Many web-based sources are shorter and don't have the detail that you need. And then there's the other case, which is Wikipedia. And I think Wikipedia is a really interesting case. I prefer that students not use Wikipedia as a cited source. Wikipedia is basically an encyclopedia. It's a tertiary source. It gathers information together from a variety of places. It's usually good for getting background information, but it doesn't have the sophisticated level of discussion that you want for the sources that you're using in this kind of paper. So often, I look at Wikipedia. Most of us do. But we keep in mind that it's an encyclopedia. It's going to give you just the outline of something, and you need much more of the detail. So let's talk a little bit about what you should use. You can use OneSearch through York's library, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. You can use Google Scholar, which is a particular search engine within Google that limits the searches to more scholarly sources. And you can use the databases that are available, including through libraries like not just York, but the New York Public Library, Queens Public Library, etc. And the reason the databases are usually only available through libraries is that, as I said, the things in them require subscriptions. So the libraries have to actually subscribe to the databases, and the databases cost money. You won't have access to them as, just someone searching the internet. But you do have access to them as a student here. You have access to them too through, as I said, the public libraries. And look, I made a typo. It should say databases including those available through libraries. All right. When you are doing your searches, it's important to use keywords. So in other words, you're not going to type in a whole sentence. You're not going to type in 9 or 10 words. You're going to type in the 2 or 3 words that you think are most important. So you want to try to pinpoint specific words that are going to help you narrow your searches. And as you're reviewing the articles and the books that are coming up from your searches, you should also be looking in them to see what words they use. Sometimes there are more technical terms for things that we have names for, that we don't know the name for until we do some of the research. So for example, if you were looking up to find out, you wanted to learn more about how children learn to speak, you might type in children learn speak, right? That's sort of a lay term for what we're talking about. But the more you would find in terms of articles, you'd realize that there's an actual term for that. And that term is language acquisition. And so once you had that particular key term, you could use that to unlock more articles for yourself. And refine the keywords as you go, right? So for example, sometimes you do a search and you get 3,000 results. Well, maybe that means your keywords are too general, too vague. Maybe you need to add one, or you need to tighten the keywords that you're using. And I know this is going to seem like a no-brainer, but always check the spelling. I've had students before tell me they can't find any sources on female detectives at all, and I go over there and it's because they've misspelled detectives. All right. All right, so let's have a look at some of these sources. So OneSearch. This is through the York College Library. Okay, so I'm going to show you OneSearch first. And OneSearch is found through the York College Library. So you would go to the home page here and you'd click on the link for the library. And it will take you right to this page. And one thing I really like about this page is that it's got everything kind of all together. So for example, if a professor ever asks you to search a particular database, you could use this databases link and it will give you this enormous list of different databases. You can search for books and more. That's getting you into the catalog. You can do e-resources. Those are books and longer pieces that are available online through the York College Library. But I'm also starting to experiment more with this OneSearch box up here because it searches both the databases and the library catalog. So it kind of pulls everything together for you and you don't have to figure out what database to look in. So for example, if I wanted to say to myself, I'm going to do a paper specifically on female detectives, I might type in female detectives, right? Those are my keywords for right now. I may have to refine them later. And I click on OneSearch. And this is actually the results I would get. As you notice, it's an enormous number of results. It's 28,766 results, which is probably too many. It's interesting that it automatically also searched women detectives. It's a smart kind of search engine. It will find synonyms for some of the terms that you're using. But I want to show you first the kinds of sources that OneSearch will pull up, and then we can talk about ways to filter or refine the results. So for example, this on the top, the first thing here is a book. It's available through the York College Stack. So that means that you would need to go and physically get it. Pull down a little further, we're starting to see an article. Here it's a peer-reviewed article, so that means it's in a journal where other people have reviewed the article and sort of testified to its strengths. And the full text is available right through OneSearch. So if you clicked on that link and you were here at the on the campus, it would take you straight to the article. All right. So we're seeing articles so far and some books. Sometimes I also see what's called an electronic resource, and that's often a book that we have electronic access to. So the first thing I might do is just say to myself, all right, I only want to see the things where I can get the full text online. We might have books, but maybe I don't want to have to physically go to the library. So I might click this box, full text online, and then I would say apply filters. And I'll get this, it will have narrowed things down. And you'll see here I'm only seeing full text available. And this thing right here sounds like it's actually an electronic resource because see how it says other up here and it looks like it's a government document. Here's somebody's dissertation, right? All sorts of really, really interesting things are being pulled up here. And this is interesting. Kate Warren, this is an article on Kate Warren, who is considered one of the first female detectives who worked for Pinkerton in the 1870s. All right. Okay, so as I said, I think that one source is actually an excellent place to start some of your searching. Rather than going into the databases, I would start here. You can later, if you want to, if you see that the articles that you're finding are showing up in one particular database, maybe you know to just search that database. But for now, this is a good place to start. And notice that these articles and these books seem to be more reliable than something that you might find just straight on Google. You can also even limit to peer-reviewed journals. That will knock you down to a much smaller number of sources, only 4,500, and that will specifically pull up only articles that are extremely authoritative because they've appeared in peer-reviewed journals. And here you're going to notice they're very specialized, so a lot of these would probably not make sense for you. But maybe one would, so you'd have to poke around a little bit. All right? Okay. So that's one search. That's through the York College Library. Okay, so just to review, one search. You have access through the York College Library page. It searches books, journal articles, electronic resources all at once, which is why it's a little bit easier to use than the databases or the library catalog. Some of these things in one search are going to be full text access. Others you will need to visit the library to access, which means that you may have to go to a shelf to find a book. And you can use filters to narrow the searches in one search. All right, let's look next at Google Scholar. So Google Scholar searches books and journal articles. And the difference between Google Scholar and regular Google is that Google Scholar is only going to search things that are considered scholarly, in short. There are things that are going to have appeared in academic and peer-reviewed journals. There are things that are going to have appeared in published books. So you're not just searching the internet. It's like you're narrowing the scope of your search right from the start. And I think that that's really helpful for us because it means you don't have to spend quite as much time sorting through which sources are reliable and which ones are not. It's not that everything you're going to find on Google Scholar is going to be perfect, but it gives you a much smaller haystack to look for your needle. If you search from a computer on campus, the links will take you to articles we have access to. So if you're using a computer on campus, that means that the databases that store the articles that we have access to are actually going to show up as links, and I'll show you that in a minute if that's a little confusing. You can also use there's two particular things that I'm going to show you in Google Scholar that are very helpful. One is related articles to find other articles on the same topic, and the other one is cited by, which shows you who has this article in their bibliography, and it can indicate reliability and authority. If something's been cited a great deal, that usually means that it is a stronger article. So let's have a look at Google Scholar. Okay, so here is Google Scholar, and you'll notice I actually found it by just typing in scholar.google.com, but usually you can also find it from the main Google page. If you just sort of poke around over here, it usually says more, and it'll pull up. So Google Scholar, let's do the same search we did before when we were working with one search. So female detective, right? Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of different things. This is an article, and it's got related articles, and it's been cited by 163, so this might be something important, but it's a little bit old. So one thing I can do with Google Scholar is I can customize the range of dates, and maybe I only want things that are more recent. So I might say, just to start, sort by date. And that's going to give me the most recent things. See how it says articles added in the last year sorted by date? Well, I think I want anytime sort by date. See if that'll work. No, that doesn't want to work. Okay, that's a good lesson to have. So custom range. Maybe I want things in the last 20 years. So I'm going to say 2000 to 2018, right? And then I'm going to say, well, I don't want to sort by date because this is okay. All right, so you'll see I'm finding a number of different sources. Here's a book, Sherlock Sisters, The British Female Detective, 1864 to 1913. It's been cited by 54, so that's a good sign that this is something that's reliable, authoritative. And I can even do this related articles button and see what that pulls up for me. All right, so it pulled up that book, a number of other, this is an article, this is another book, right? So it's pulling up things that are related to the particular topics of that book or that article. And notice here, look at this, PDF at JSTOR.org. So that's telling me that this is actually an article that's available in full text, and because JSTOR is a database that York pays for, if I click on this, it will take me to the link for it here at York. Now again, this is only going to work with these York links if you have access to the computer here at school. Right? So it says full text online, JSTOR Arts and Sciences. Let's see what happens if I try to pull it up. Okay. So far this says journal article, Trouble with She-Dicks, Private Eyes and Public Women in the Adventures of Loveday Brooke, Lady Detective. Loveday Brooke was a detective in the late 19th century, fictional detective, I should add. And so here I've got a link for download PDF. Let's see what's going to happen. Yep, it's going to take me to that PDF. And there's the entire article, right? The whole thing right here for me, as I need. And this is going to come up. It's just that it's taking a minute or two, which is typical. I'm on the Wi-Fi here, right? And so here's the article itself. And what's nice about this is if this is an article I was going to be using for my research, I would have easy access to it. I'd also be able to go to the end of the article fairly easily and see who this author is citing and quoting. That might help me find some additional resources if this is targeted to what I'm interested in. Okay, so I think that these two little buttons here, once you find an article that's close to what you're looking for, those are really helpful. This will pull up more articles like the one that you're looking at. This will pull up articles that have used your book or your article. And so both of those two things are very helpful for kind of widening your search, extending your search, but not getting too far away from your particular topic. Okay, so just to review, your goal here when you're doing your searching is to refine your keywords so that you can find sources that are actually relevant to the topics you are interested in. You want to use search tools that will narrow your search to reliable, authoritative sources. So things like OneSearch through the York College Library and Google Scholar. Please don't just go straight to regular Google. And then you want to refine your searches using tools in those search tools. So, for example, filters for OneSearch can help you narrow down your searches. Related articles and cited by can help you narrow down your searches for Google Scholar. All right. Thank you, and happy searching.